Good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time zone you're in, and welcome to GSV's Winds of Change, advice for K-12 EdTech startups. I want to welcome everybody for attending, and I also want to do a quick advertisement to remind everyone that the ASU+GSV Summit is coming up. The Summit and the AI Show are both coming up. The AI Show from April 5th to 7th in San Diego, and the Summit from the 6th to the 9th of April in San Diego. So we look forward to having everyone there. And these sessions will be run-ups to the Summit and Show as we kick off this season. And today I'm delighted to have as sort of my inaugural guest on this session, Hardeep Gulati, who is the CEO, almost a decade long, which I'll talk about a little bit later, of PowerSchool. No one better suited to provide advice to startups and players in the K-12 EdTech space than Hardeep. He has seen it all at the helm of PowerSchool for the last decade. So let's welcome him on.
Hi, Deborah. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Thrilled to have you here. I'll start out with, PowerSchool. I unfortunately have been in the sector for much longer than you have. So I can actually remember when PowerSchool was a startup. It was, in fact, a small venture-backed company started in 1983, embarrassingly 1 year after I graduated from college, by a K-12 educator. It was actually, for those who aren't aware of it, it was actually acquired by Apple in 2001, which is, I think, the only time Apple has ever acquired an EdTech company or much of anything, really. So since really the 2000s, PowerSchool has been a story of organic growth, followed by acquisition, followed by divestiture, and now further acquisition and consolidation. It's been a pretty remarkable path to where you sit today. And then recently, you closed a $5.6 billion going private transaction with Bain. And I just love to kind of have you, Hardeep, reflect on how does this history, how does it impact the company today? And then what does the transaction with Bain mean or change for you, your strategic vision? You're thinking about acquisition, and you're thinking about global expansion. And I'll just, the final piece of that, as we think about the startups in the audience, kind of what does that mean for a startup who might want to, partner with you or have you acquire them or something like that? So.
Sure. Hey, even before I, Deborah, tell about PowerSchool story, let me first thank you because you have been a force of really support for the entire education community. So thank you for what you do. I think that opportunity is, really is what allowed companies like PowerSchool to get what we are here. So keep doing the great work you're doing, and we're happy to support you in every way. Well, I think your PowerSchool story is the perfect story, right? That is a story. Somebody started, an entrepreneur who had an idea, saw a problem in their school district, started that idea, and now almost close to 30 years later, we are the largest K-12 technology solution in North America, if not the world. What's exciting about it is that when you do work which actually has a direct impact, we've been developing mission-critical systems all the way from student systems to learning management to Naviance for college career, like these solutions which are critical to running the school or any school organization, whether it's in North America or globally, you attract a lot of interest, both from customers. We have been growing exceptionally well. Just in my tenure in the last 9 years, we have grown almost 8 times, right? From what was 100 million to almost 700 million plus of business. But what's also exciting is the impact we're making in terms of being able to reach globally all the schools of all different shapes and sizes and be able to do that. And Bain investment, we had our journey from different rounds of investment. The Bain investment recently just proves the further opportunity ahead of us, that how big this opportunity is for almost double, triple from when we are standing today. So when you look at the K-12 market, which is where we're focused on, that itself is a $6 trillion plus market across the globe. So even for what we are only talking about 1 or 2% of the size of the total market. So we have a huge opportunity to be able to continue making the impact and grow. And our strategy, our vision for the broader platform, our ability to build solutions that actually address the needs of our educators for every student, that continues to stuff. So this is just further acceleration of our plans with the next phase of growth for PowerSchool.
Can you actually also talk a little bit about that? I mean, you're reflecting back on the 9 years that you've been here, extraordinary growth, 100 to 700 million, expansion into global locations, et cetera. Historically, the K-12 market had the reputation for, no one wanted to go there. It was Byzantine procurement processes. It was political headwinds. It was, on and on and on. Ironically, I think if you look at certainly the U.S. market, the number of successful large-scale digital education companies in K-12 exceeds really every other category. It's certainly in the pre-K to grade education scene. Can you talk a little bit about how you think customers have changed in your tenure, how purchasing and buying decisions have changed, what's become more important to the customer, over that time period? Because I think that's been part of the issue.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I've had the opportunity over the last 30 years of my career to be able to be part of different verticals, whether that's retail, high tech, even finance, fintech and all. But one of the things what I've seen in K-12, especially I've been in education now for almost 15 years, is that it has been a leg. The managing of change sometimes is considered too risky or too element that it's going to require a lot of buy-in. But what we have seen is that, especially in the last decade, we've seen that it's almost the acceleration of that digital transformation. Because when you look at other sectors, technology is already making such a huge impact on every element of those businesses. So think about how you do retail buying today is very different from what you did a decade or 2 decades back. How you do banking today has been very different. Even healthcare is transforming at the breakneck speed. Education movement is actually now. I think what we are seeing, especially after even COVID, there was even a further realization that we cannot live with having antiquated systems. You cannot have teachers having to go, touch 20 different systems. You cannot keep them productive. They can't really be able to serve the student needs. Students or parents cannot have these multiple systems when being able to have all the fragmented data and not having a source of truth, not having a proper engagement, and not having the intelligence, districts having the intelligence to know where the kids are. And I think that realization of that is happening across the board. We're seeing that globally even. We're even having countries actually coming to us and saying, hey, we want to transform our entire education apparatus. And I think that has been a fundamental change. That has both from a demographic shift. I think we were sitting, we were too laggard, and now we are forced to change because the systems have got antiquated. Data security is another one, which if you're sitting on old systems, you know that 80% of the school districts have had ransomware attack. So they do need to transform that. And then the need for understanding where the students are and supporting them, supporting the teachers and parents, it has become now the front for all the educator leaders. And we are seeing definitely a whole different renewed sense of requirements that they want to be able to transform.
So I take all that to say you feel like accountability has moved in a positive direction, perhaps.
Absolutely. I think it's both accountability and, as you've seen, both from the regulations and over the years, has definitely pushed for those. But I think a self-realization of serving the communities which are coming from the needs from not just from the educators, but even from the voices of teachers, students, and parents, that has definitely created both the need of having more digital transformation.
So speaking of transformation, the elephant in the room, generative AI, and as we like to call it, the AI revolution in education. I'd love if you just spend a little time on that. Obviously, it has taken all the air out of the room in the last 24 months or more, and both positively and negatively. So I think there's certainly within the education markets, both K-12 and higher ed, and maybe perhaps even workforce, has gotten a wider variety of issues, related to the education markets and AI than perhaps some other sectors of technology or sectors of the economy. Love to know as you look back. I know you guys have leaned in hard. One, love you to just talk about what PowerSchool has done in terms of your AI initiatives. I know they're myriad. Love to hear what you see in the general market in terms of really positive movements, and then perhaps some disappointments in this new era so far, because the new era is hardly begun, as we all. And anyway, so just if you don't mind starting there, and I have more questions for you too.
Absolutely. Deborah, one of the things, even prior to coming to PowerSchool 9 years back, I saw this in corporate education as well as in higher education, is that the real element of
you should note that you were a leader in the corporate world.
Absolutely. We were running one of the largest corporate and higher ed learning management system and even talent management systems. So we've been kind of really have the opportunity to work with a lot of the leaders on this side for many years. And one thing which we saw, even from the largest corporations and largest universities, is that personalizing education is the ultimate nirvana, which actually helps support our students and educator. I think if you ask any educator, what is your nirvana? What is if you are not limited by technology, you're not limited by having your ability, they will say, I want to support every student in the best way, in the personal way, and be able to support every child and provide the most high quality education. We think Gen AI presents that opportunity for us to realize the vision, which is what we started day one for me in PowerSchool, was that we wanted to personalize education for every student journey. And to do that, we've been building the platform. We've been investing heavily in bringing the platform so we understand how the student is learning, how the student can be supported, how the teacher is supporting the student, so we can augment the teacher to be able to support that student. And we believe the Gen AI exactly gives the tools to our educators, to our districts, to our parents, to our students, to be able to really bring that all element of personalization to every element of education. And where we have approached it is we've kind of launched exactly with that same thought process is what we call Power Buddy. It's a Gen AI assistant which allows you to actually provide an AI assistant in every element of what they do in our solutions. And so it becomes like an AI helper for every stuff. We've seen already a lot of success on it. We already have hundreds of districts who have actually adopted our Power Buddy solutions, from all the way from supporting teachers to help create quizzes and assessment based on the different readability levels. So it saves them almost 6 to 7 hours per week of time, which you can do in a matter of minutes. Being able to support students so they can get help on specific topics that allows them to have in a sporadic method that's giving them to understand a chain of thought. So they are able to use that to support helping them in their homework, not having to go, cheat or anything, because this gives them a way to think about how do you actually support the process. But then also even educators, giving them more easy democratic access to the data. They can actually ask, tell me, Power Buddy, how is my different areas of attendance or disciplines I need to be able to equip so I can support my community better. And we're launching this for our parents as well as for our teacher and coaching and mentoring. So there's just the opportunity here is tremendous. We believe that every element of PowerSchool is going to be Gen AI enabled. So the entire solutions that our districts and our educators and our community relies on will have the power to actually be able to even further interact easily and support them. And that's the nirvana we're really excited about, because we can really achieve the vision what we're looking at.
Well, and it's interesting. I think Common Sense Media just came out with a poll in the last few weeks just about usage of generative AI in K-12, and I thought it was frankly astoundingly low. So I'm just curious what you all are seeing in terms of, acceptance, resistance, anxiety, and kind of what sort of supports do you PowerSchool are needing to provide to make sure that teachers and students feel that they are, well, trained and well skilled and using, AI, whatever properly, whatever that is, appropriately defined as. You all must be, you've got the best, perspective to see what the kind of the broad market's reaction is and how it's accepting and not of these, incredibly powerful productivity tools.
Absolutely, Deborah. I think when you look at it, just like any technology, if you don't roll it out well, it can have the negative effects. I think we are seeing, as you mentioned, that some cases where the thought process hasn't been done properly, or the vendors they're choosing may not have gone through the full understanding of how to protect the data sovereignty, how do you make sure it's responsible, how do you make sure it's ethical, how do you make sure these are different elements of the bias. Almost kind of think about it to be human-centered, like really putting the constraints. I think for us, that has been the center point for us in terms of our rollout of our AI. We've set AI guiding principles, which we are actually working with our districts in sharing rubrics, best practices, helping them create AI committees, where they can bring what are the different elements of that is important for our districts. But then also making sure when they are relying on us to be the platform, and it doesn't matter whether they are using our AI tools or even some third-party AI tools, we can help them with the data protection to bring the data elements, that it's rather than having them take their data to the AI, they're bringing their AI to the data. So what we have really launched a whole mechanism is what we call Get Ready for AI. So even if you're not today actually going to be using AI tools, or you have concerns, or you're thinking about policy, you could work with us to actually help you build the data foundation, the platform, the data platform, which allows you to have a control on your data as to what are you going to use to help provide that information. So that way you know that the right K-12 controls are in place, the right district control and state controls on the right curriculum that is going to be used to be able to provide the responses. And then you also have control on what the actual interactions are. So you actually are able to have that feedback loop and be able to do that. And we have done this is also in a way that we are, what we call red teaming. We are actually bringing industry experts to actually help make sure that us and our districts are kind of protected to roll this out. Now, this is another exciting part of our focus is that, there are tools out there which are trying to say, hey, let's take a big tool and roll it out for the whole thing. What we are focusing on is how we can actually give this capabilities in the hands of our districts in a bite size. So they can roll it out for an educator, or they can roll it out for their administrators. They can roll it out for us one area for helping on Spanish because they need help, or their counseling, or their coaching and mentoring where they are limited on resources. So getting them comfortable with the technology, being able to adopt that bite size, and then be able to really leverage that. I think the exciting part for us is that doesn't matter, again, how the district strategy would be, is the fact that we can partner with them on the data to build that 360 context to make sure that data sovereignty is protected in this next phase. That is what PowerSchool is in a unique position to offer.
So does that mean that you all, obviously there's lots of conversation around regulation, or you talked about helping create AI advisory councils and things. So are you all leaning in to really try to help the district leadership, even the city leadership, federal leadership, think about appropriate guardrails and rules? And, because obviously you're dealing with millions of students who are very, in the most vulnerable privacy, ages. Just curious how that's fitting into your strategy, which you must be fitting in a new way, given this. Yeah.
Absolutely. PowerSchool is in a very unique position. As you said, we almost serve 85% of the North American school districts. We almost have, contracts with 30 plus states and provinces and territories, like 90 of the top 100 school districts. So you're absolutely right. We have the front row seats in really partnering with our districts and states on these strategies. We are doing actually multiple events and series across different cities and everything. We're bringing the Get Ready for AI, the AI thought leadership, to allow our customers to get comfortable and understand, not just about, this is not about PowerSchool, it's about understanding how they can actually roll out the AI. What we have seen is that, we, as I mentioned, we already having 100 plus districts who have adopted, from the districts like, not just sitting here in California. I have West Placer County, which is 10 minutes from me. Their team is actually here for 2 hours today talking about how they're rolling out their Power Buddy. But even it's Brownsville, Texas, where they have quite a lot of students in Title I, and how do they provide more support for this? Or an Epic Charter in Oklahoma for virtual schools, or a private school like Challenger. So we are really bringing the whole community together in this process to make sure. But what, as I mentioned, the key element there is that the most important thing for a district is to make sure that they have controls on their data. They have ability to roll this out in a methodical way where they can get comfortable. We even have what we launched custom AI. So they can actually take just their documents sitting inside and different stuff, which is hard to find for a teacher or educator or parents even, and bringing that into a custom AI and kind of putting it out so they know the responses they're providing actually are very controlled, but they're getting the full power of the Gen AI. So we're really giving them those technology components that allows them to do the current stuff within the current controls, but then taking advantage of stuff. And as they get comfortable, they can kind of keep pushing the envelope to the next level.
The Brownsville example, it leads me to, an important question, and thing where I try to, where I think I'm optimistic is the opportunity for generative AI to open up access more broadly. I mean, if you think about movements within education, the coding movement was terrific, but at the end of the day was really not accessible. I mean, simply because the vast majority of people probably don't want to. You were a coder as a start growing up and going to college, but not everyone. Not everyone's going to want to be on that path. The beauty to me of generative AI is it is accessible. It is breaking down things that were inaccessible, like coding, or into bite-size, into accessible transactions that can be done by people like me who are not trained coders. And so how are you thinking today as you think about some of your, since you do have such a large footprint, think about some of the lowest income districts that you all serve, and what impact AI can have to really finally democratize learning and skills in ways that you couldn't have thought about this five years ago. Is that fair?
I think you nailed it, Deborah. So in our mind, this technology has the biggest opportunity to actually provide the equity we have been looking for, right? Which is what every one of the educator, lawmakers, policymakers dream about, is that how do I provide that equity of education and access to education to stuff. And I think the problem is that even with us as a North America, just like the US, we're spending $900 billion, we still have a lot of resources that we need to be able to do. But a lot of times what we have seen, even as in a post-pandemic area, for example, with the interventions, you can have a lot of strategy on dollars you can spend on tutoring, supplemental content, but then when you look at it, it's kind of spray and pray, right? There is no way to know that is that reaching the right resources. In fact, I was sitting at one of the top 10 school districts, superintendent who board was, breathing down his neck, was saying, hey, we've spent tens of millions of dollars on tutoring and stuff, but the 30% of the kids who needed it never got to use it more than one or two sessions, and the 10% of kids using it don't need it, right? So how do you really get the right help to the right student? This is where the scale of that problem is so big that the AI system like PowerBuddy can help provide the right support, because we understand the full context of the student. We understand what the student needs are, what their attendance was. We understand their special ed needs. We understand their different elements of how they're doing on different mastery. We understand even if they were, just from a social emotional elements that are factoring in. Because what it's not about is not improving a grade. That's it's not about just throwing more content at the student and throwing more tutoring. It's about supporting the child holistically and supporting their full environment. When you look at it, 80% of the North American families actually struggle with supporting their kids on their homework, because either they don't have the time, or they don't have the resources, or they don't have the knowledge to support that. And a lot of inequities are starting in that homework, and which is creating disengagement for kids when they come to classrooms. So how do we provide that support so the teachers are creating lesson plans and quizzes and homeworks that are personalized to that child so they can bring them along, and then supporting the child if they're not getting the help to be able to make sure they're engaged and aligned to their career path. So I think the opportunity here is the way we are bringing this to the different components of that. It changes us to be able to help provide a support for every child.
Yep, I am. I'm all in on that. All in on that vision. The more we can finally achieve true democratization, would be a godsend, obviously. I just wanted to do related to that. I mean, a lot of our live audience today is from the EdTech startup community in K-12. And for the EdTech startup community, PowerSchool can be a little intimidating, just given your sheer size, even though you were a startup once, and your market presence and everything. One, I would love your thoughts on the opportunity for some of these EdTech startups in the AI space and elsewhere to potentially partner with PowerSchools. How might they tackle that? Is there an opportunity for collaboration short of acquisition, that sort of thing? And love to hear your thoughts there.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Deborah, I think going back to my point earlier, I think people got to remember K-12 education is one of the, if not the top 3 to 4 or 5 size market or globally across all industries, right? We're talking about $6 trillion spent globally. Even with PowerSchool being billion or $2 billion, we would still be 0.002% of this whole market, right? So there is a tremendous opportunity for innovation and technology in this area. So I think that hopefully the startups feel completely energized that this is a big problem. It's actually also one of the very stable industries. You know, you don't have the macroeconomic factors and idiosyncrasies. It is well supported bipartisanly. It's well supported and as a top priority for a lot of the countries. What the key is that the element is to, from my perspective, for startup is that sometimes the startups could get focused either, too broadly. And if you cannot be day one become a PowerSchool. We didn't become PowerSchool day one. We focused on one problem and then we build from there. So my recommendation to the startups is like focus on a problem which is mission critical, not nice to have, which is really mission critical, and you build your expertise around that. But that's great for us as well, because we would love to partner with you to bring that mission critical component that you're doing, that our districts or our states are going to be able to take advantage of that. What that allows you is to now build that expertise and become the best of that area, and then be able to then look at how you expand further, right? If you try to go too broad too quickly, then you kind of become, it's a big, very high problem to solve. And it took us 25 years to get here, right? You cannot expect yourself to suddenly, K-12 is not an industry for VCs or entrepreneurs to think that suddenly you're going to have a success like a Meta, or you're going to have a success like a, OpenAI. You're going to have to do the groundwork. You have to build brick by brick, build the adoption across the different use cases, the states. And so as long as they're committed for multi-year strategy for them to kind of build solutions that are important, then this is a great market. If somebody's thinking this is an overnight 10x, 20x, 30x, this at K-12 is not that market.
Love that, and I completely agree. One kind of final sub question in that is, as long as I've been doing this, things like, everybody's ESSER funding cliff has been the big topic this year, but over the 25 years that I've been following this market, there's always been some cliff, right? And I think you make the very good point that while these cliffs come and go, the stability of the K-12 market, prevails underneath all of it. And yes, we will have political, hopefully we'll never have another COVID pandemic, but we will have different movements of economics in and out of the sector. How would you tell a startup founder, how do you think about that? How do you build your business to be ready for things like ESSER cliffs, things like that? What would you advise on that front?
Yeah. First, Deborah, I think the ESSER cliff has kind of been overplayed in my mind when you think about even the core funding situation from federal, state, and local, which is what funds most of the education. That hasn't come down even in the last 30 years. I think we're talking about a stimulus which was assigned for a specific, which was 2-3% of additional dollars in a year, which were given for a specific purpose to help upgrade the infrastructure, get more laptops, to help support the different elements in that. That is the only point. Now, and we did see some districts relied on that funding for those one-time items, and they have to kind of figure out how they balance that. So this year kind of was a little bit of balancing the budget. And by the way, we brought in this technology, all of you, which actually helps districts manage that budget as well more effectively, because as they were balancing the budget, we heard the requirement, hey, I need to understand the ROI of each of these investments, so we can help there. But what's the important is the core funding element still remains. The mission critical systems did not get impacted. We did not see the element of drop of any of the system, because you're not going to replace your student system because suddenly you're going to, you still need that. You still need your learning management system. You still need your support for teachers, for recruiting, for supporting substitute teachers. So if your system is mission critical, you are kind of like immune to that, and K-12 is a very resilient market on it. I go back to the point is that anytime if the startups are thinking, hey, I'm going to suddenly have a huge amount of funding sources because I brought something that is going to change. Doesn't exist in K-12. It will be a growth area. We've been, 9 years, we've been consistently recording double-digit organic growth. Even the last 3 years as a public, we've been recording that. But that's a sustainable model, right? You can get 10% plus growth. But if you're expecting larger, this is where I think you should look at other industries.
Great. All right, I want to do one kind of personal question before I bring Fran Rosenberg on to add in some questions from the audience. But I am personally obsessed with India, as most people know who have dealt with me. I visit at least 3 times a year, and we are blessed to have some absolutely fantastic portfolio investments in the Indian market. Also a very resilient, fascinating K-12 scene, as you and I have talked, and you all have a small acquisition that you've made there, and we'll see where you go from there. You grew up in central India and got your CS Masters at the extremely prestigious IIT Bombay. There are today, a number, 23, I think, IITs around the country, but the Bombay campus continues to be one of the absolute most premier campuses within the country. I'm not sure Americans have a full appreciation for the insanity of getting into college in India. I know it's talked about a lot, but to hear the numbers is just jaw-dropping. Today, about 1.4 million students take the JEE exams hoping to get a shot at the next level of exams, which allows you to apply for IIT admissions. There are, amongst the 23 IIT universities around the country today, there are only 17,740 seats. So that's 1.4 million to 17,000. It makes the Ivy League look like kindergarten. The odds are just insane. I'd love for you, if you just spend a minute talking about your life growing up in India, how that has that has impacted. I love how students in India think about their batch mates. You go to IIT in a batch, and those batches stay together very cohesively. It's remarkable to me. Love to hear how that may have shaped your perspective today in being a corporate leader in America.
Yeah. Deborah, I will actually give you a little bit different perspective because I'm going through this right now with my son who's senior, applying for different colleges. And his early dates are right now, just literally 2 days from now. Right, when you look at the competitiveness, even what we are seeing now, right, and even the expectations from these kids, that has gone to a level of insanity where I do think there's a lot of pressure for kids over here, and the process have gone very competitive. So I do feel for the kids that I think my high schooler is not going to tell, will tell you how difficult this is, right? I think, what I would say is that I do believe education transcends boundaries. I think for somebody like me who's done elementary school and middle school and high school from different parts of India, and be able to do coming here and be able to be part of be able to build the technology system to support all the kids, not just in North America but globally. I think it just proves that you can, if you get the right quality education, you get the right support from the educators, we can pretty much create so much innovation, so much of impact globally. So I think to your point, just that impact and equity of education at the global level just changes everything, right? So I think that is a key. We do believe India is a big market, just like what we think Latin America, Middle East are some of the other big focus areas for us, because we are seeing that both from the needs from the markets, like in India, there's a lot of focus and investment going on from private schools and parents. And similarly, we're seeing that from Middle East countries, as well as in Latin America from a lot of the organizations. There's a lot of focus on actually improving the education infrastructure. We just rolled out a whole data platform on, for example, in Uruguay, where they're already using Schoology across the entire country. By the way, Schoology gets used more than even Instagram in that country. So I think that's, my kids were very happy about that. But, now we're putting a data and AI platform across the country. We have huge opportunities like that exist. And you're absolutely right. India is a huge market. In fact, we are making a very concerted effort. We have put both our teams as well as solutions to now almost support more than 2 million students. And we are seeing huge, almost 30% growth in that market in terms of the adoption of technology and stuff. So I do think, we can really learn from each other globally and bring those perspectives across. So there'll be things we can actually bring from international markets into our North America. How is the Schoology rollout in Uruguay is better than some communities here for learning management, and why it is you can create even more engagement. So what are some of the investments they did on teacher training and support that could be beneficial for a district here sitting in the US as well? I think these are the opportunities we really feel great about, is that we can actually bridge that gap and bring a good quality education to every student.
Wonderful. And with that, I'm going to bring Fran Rosenberg up to field a few questions from the audience for you.
Hi, Fran.
Hey, thank you guys so much. This has been so fascinating. We have a ton of questions coming in from the startups that I'll try to sort of amalgamate. And I think one of the key ones has been around the growth story and advice that you might have, Hardeep, and Deborah yourself as well, on scaling in K-12 in the US. You know, a lot of questions around this 85% to 90% market share. What advice would you have for founders as they sort of look to scale from their first million to 10 million and building relationships with states, with school districts, et cetera? Any growth hacks?
Yeah, well, I think it's a fair, again, as I said, it's 25 years in making, right, in terms of achieving that presence. It's not a market share, right? Our market share is probably less than 5-6%. It's really being able to already do some business with these school districts. Now, what I do see is that I think the way I would say is that I go back to my Warren days, and one of the principles from Jeffrey Moore about it is like crossing the chasm. You know, to scale, it's still the fundamental stuff is how do you cross that chasm to scale up? And what I would say in K-12, there are multiple chasms. Even as you move across states, you actually have to go build that chasm as well. So I think you know, this is a very regional market. It's also in terms of very niche market. We are bringing the different elements of the decision making together. But I go back to the startups feedback. If you can focus on solving one problem and focus on solving that well and helping get the customer adoption, and then build from that from one state to another, that is the best way to really cross that chasm and build the tornado effect. You try to go too broad, too quickly. I think that's where then you run out of money, and then you are finding yourself, how do I justify cost and growth, right? And so I think that it would be my main recommendation.
Awesome, thank you so much.
And I would just sort of add quickly, in contrast to the PowerSchool model, there obviously have been a number of companies that have been venture funded and have chosen to do more of a freemium model. Class Dojo is a company that we've been very fortunate to have invested in, and has built. And again, I think Sam and Liam have very much followed Hardeep's game plan, in that they weren't precipitous in what they tried to do. They had a product, a product that was deeply beloved in classrooms. It was free. They actually made sure that they had. They were very careful on management of capital, and they made sure that they had a very strong position with educators, and before they moved to a strategy of freemium. And I think there are a number of good examples in the K-12 space of folks who have accomplished that, going really from sort of a B2C, effectively a B2C model, B2C to C, because in that case you're going educator to parent, but also supporting the administrators as well. So it's kind of an interesting mix of model, and I think that was very product led. Very solution led, very focused, never got distracted from delivery on that mission. And I think that's created a very, very important company to that, now I don't know if it's 10 years now, but it's a very, very established company in the K-12 market, coming at it from a very different approach than the B2B PowerSchool model, but a very similar mentality to what Hardeep described for success in terms of focus and delivery for that educator of a better professional experience, and then delivery for students.
Awesome, thanks, Deborah. The next question, we've gotten like 3 or 4 around the Ezra Cliff, and we've seen questions come in not only about Hardeep, how how that might change your guys's plans and strategies with regards to educating school districts on, you know, the monies that they still will have access to and how they can leverage that for technology, but also for internal operations at these startups' own companies. You know, how might it affect their ability to raise capital? How might they think differently about spending their capital and things like that, and then educating their customers as well for future. Would love to sort of get your guys' take on operations within the districts, but also operations within the companies and how the cliff might be seen by startups.
Yeah. No, I think fair questions. Again, I do iterate that people need to still focus on the core funding hasn't changed, right? We're just talking about the stimulus in the last 3 years, which going down. And when you look at it, we have done a lot of studies with our customer base. There are a lot of public studies out there. They'll tell you that some of the impacts are things like supplemental content they bought, or, you know, infrastructure investments they did, or tutoring dollars they put in. And those things are the one which they have to readjust it to the level of the pre-pandemic levels, right? But if you're a core technology, those funding sources are different. Most of our district could not use an ESSER funding to buy PowerSchool solutions because you need an ongoing budget allocation. So a lot of that, from our perspective, hasn't changed. We haven't been a COVID beneficiary, and we are not a COVID impact either, primarily because we are, our funding sources are the core. If you are in that category, which had a COVID bump and you had some funding sources, I say go back and look at your business model and your focus areas to be what is important, which can be allocated in the core stuff. We still see, and based on even what we're seeing even in the last quarter, we are seeing actually phenomenal amount of resiliency in the use cases that are important to district. I think especially over the last 4 years, we've also seen that this is where PowerSchool has been a beneficiary because we are a very diversified platform. So what was important to districts in COVID quickly was to put a learning management system. We were able to support them on that. If they were important to them to put an assessment to understand where the kids are, we had a solution for that, right? You are, making sure teachers are being retained and supported, and PD for them to help learn. We have a solution for that, right? And we are seeing right now, we still see a huge amount of requirements around MTSS, right? How do I support the kids, especially if I'm going to have less funding providing this distant intervention? I still don't want to lose those kids. So how do I provide the support for those kids in a surgical way and be able to support that? Teacher talent is still the most different stuff. I know we have, some districts who had to kind of tighten up, but majority, there's still a huge amount of teacher shortage in North America. How do you support and provide support those teachers and help retain and implement? We are implementing the new job board for Florida, for example. We are just putting special education solution in Indiana. We just, brought in the entire Arkansas to put special education as well. These core infrastructure problems, they are still existing and need to be solved. And I think that is, again, what I would keep pointing out is that solve what is mission critical, and then you're going to definitely see, funds are there.
Great. I think we are at our 45-minute limit. Fran, I don't know if there's one more you want to try to slip in, but I think we definitely need to be winding down. You let me know.
I think the questions are a little complex. Like, we've got a bunch in about the partnerships that people might be able to create with PowerSchool in terms of all the data you guys must have on your many customers, and how startups might be able to partner with you guys and leverage if you'd be willing to spend an extra minute with us. And then Deborah, right to you to the close.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, if you go to PowerSchool partner site, you will see we have hundreds of supported and certified partners where we invest with them on building the integrations, certifying them, make sure they're secure for our customers, make sure they're reliable for our customers. And once you are on that certified partner and you can do that, it immediately validates for a customer of PowerSchool that they can actually use that solution. So we highly encourage the companies to partner, because that's something allows us to support jointly those customers even better. So we are very open about that. It's pretty much, anybody can actually create that partnership and provide that and invest with us in building those integrations, as well as the certification process that allows us, our customers, to have more reliable. I think I would not emphasize the data security and data privacy and availability of these mission critical systems, that's paramount for us. That's number one priority for us, right? So we take that very seriously, and these partnerships help us provide better ecosystem for our districts. So we will encourage everybody to take advantage of that.
Awesome. All right. Wonderful session. Hardeep, thank you so much. Thank you, Fran. Thanks everybody for attending, and we'll also be sending out the taped version to the broader audience. And thanks, and everybody have a great rest of their week. Thank you.
Thank you again, Deborah. You're doing a wonderful job with this community, and we appreciate everything you do.
Thank you.